Alrighty, so we're on the Gold Coast, and one thing that's synonymous with coming to the Gold Coast is you have to deal with crowds. Today we're at D-Bar. It's one of the most popular spots in the area, and there's a whole bunch of pros in the water. We're going to take this opportunity to share with you guys how to deal with a crowded beach break lineup. Let's jump into it. Alright, let's go! Negotiating a crowded lineup can seem like a very challenging process, especially if you are not quite fine-tuned with the crowd dynamic. There are lots of different factors at play, and an innocent onlooker, or beginner surfer for that matter, would be forgiven for thinking that a busy lineup is nothing but a free-for-all playground with everybody taking waves as they please. But it's not the case. There's actually a very delicate system at play here which, when respected, ensures that everybody, regardless of ability or experience, has access to waves. Let's first break down one of the most fundamental rules of surfing etiquette. Generally speaking, the surfer closest to the peak of a wave has right of way. So if a wave is breaking from the right of screen to the left of screen, a right-hander, then the person further to the right of screen closest to that peak has priority to catch the wave. But, and this is a big but, the moments before the wave arrives are very important in establishing who gets priority, and it's in those moments where most conflict ensues. These little moments before are so underappreciated by a lot of surfers. Why, for example, is this surfer here not paddling for the wave and thus making it unavailable to me? Why is this surfer positioned here to go left instead of going right? There's a whole bunch of factors at play here that enable me to find this amount of space in such a crowded lineup in order to make this wave my own. Oh, cheeky little shampoo barrel. This is why it is very important in the lineup to always seek an appropriate amount of space for yourself while surfing. Many beginners and intermediate surfers, I find, end up following other surfers and following waves in the lineup as opposed to establishing their own ground and area and committing to that. One trick that you can apply is if you are trying to catch right-handers, for instance, what I'm doing in this session here, I'm constantly trying to create space towards my right so that this lessens the chance of someone else being on my inside when one of those right-handers finally comes. Simultaneously, if there are lots of people on your right, then you can use this as an opportunity to now seek out the lefts in the lineup, which is what I did. Amongst a lineup, there's also a lot of assessment going on, assessment of other surfers around you. For example, I had observed earlier in the session that this surfer here was probably closer to the beginner scale of things, and in order for a beginner surfer to get from where he was, maybe over here to catch this wave in the right spot, it was probably quite a big ask. If I had sat passively and allowed the beginner to sort of try that, then realistically one of these two surfers would have caught the wave instead, as this surfer probably would have got stuck behind or fallen off by taking off in an inappropriate spot on the wave. Now, although assessing people's abilities and sort of using that information should never be done in an unethical or sort of an unfair or arrogant way, doing that coupled with great communication, I believe I even said to the surfer, "Are you going to go this one?" Before I started paddling, is a great strategy to not only avoid conflict, but to also ensure that you put yourself in the best place possible in order to catch a wave, just like this one. Another great strategy that you can apply in crowded lineups is to, using the information that you can garner about particular surfers, be ready to catch a wave that a surfer is already riding. If you are far enough on the shoulder and you see someone catching a wave deeper than you, it still is permissible for you to sit up on your board and watch the surfer just in case they fall off or don't make it around a particular section. If that is the case, then you would be free to lay down on your board to take a few strokes and catch the wave. You have to be very certain in the circumstances so that you don't end up dropping in on someone or ruining their wave. As a general rule, don't take any paddle strokes until you're absolutely sure that the surfer is either falling off or not going to make the section. And always give a courtesy look behind you as you stand up just to triple check. When paddling back out in a crowded lineup, you need to be very wary of where other surfers are riding their waves so that you don't get in the way. I see many surfers who get nervous and end up sitting still or paddling straight in front of a surfer's line as they are riding a wave and end up ruining it. It is mostly the responsibility of the paddling surfer to ensure that they do not cross the standing up surfer's line or ruin their wave. The riding surfer needs to adjust their line accordingly based on what the paddling surfer is doing. This is really important because as the paddling surfer, you need to very clearly indicate where you're going to be by the time the surfer passes you, which means you need to either paddle out to the shoulder if you are already wide enough, or you need to sacrifice yourself and paddle towards the whitewater to get out of the pocket so that the surfer can ride their wave unhindered. Now, you may end up making the wrong decision here, and that's okay. The most important thing is that you commit to one direction so that the surfer riding the wave has the chance to make an informed decision about their line. Regardless of how adept you become at negotiating a crowded lineup, it is important to maintain an attitude of calm, openness, and understanding, as mistakes will always happen. Throughout this session, for example, I had at least 3 or 4 occasions where another surfer or boogie boarder broke a rule which impacted my wave. This is never a reason to become super aggressive or violent, and I actually find that these represent opportunities to start up a conversation with someone and then perhaps later on in the session receive a gifted wave from the offender here and there. This is the reality, is that if we didn't surf here today, we wouldn't surf at all. And learning how to negotiate delicately a very crowded and somewhat advanced lineup like that is a huge asset to your surf progression. But in saying that, let's go find somewhere else to surf.